Good morning, church. My name is Priscilla, and I'd like to share with you all an experience I had last spring of 2024. To set the stage, my family and I joined the Hagins and McCarthy's MC. During that time, I was actually working with a friend that also works remotely, and we were working in a coffee shop that is also frequented by Gospel City people. She's met Nick, Hannah, and Katie, and throughout those introductions, the topic of church naturally comes up. I'm sharing with that friend what a gift Gospel City has been, and I end up sharing my testimony with her for the first time. Following my testimony, I invite her to come to church, to which she quickly says no, that church is not for her. 2 days later, it's Sunday morning, and I wake up with a unique kind of stomach pain, so I tell Ted to go to church with the girls while I stay home. After they left, I found myself taking a nap in the living room, and what followed was something I never could have expected. For context, I've always been a vivid dreamer. I do feel that God has always spoken to me through dreams since I was little. We all know how important sleep is, but for me, it was my sacred space where God was revealing himself to me and giving me peace and reassurance in ways I couldn't receive in the awake world. Back to Sunday morning, and I'm taking a nap on my couch. I awake to what I thought was the awake world, but I was still sleeping, and I hear someone pacing up and down the hallway upstairs as I'm downstairs. And this person says in the deepest voice imaginable, "She's up." And this person is now walking down the steps. All the while, I am completely paralyzed and unable to move any part of my body or open my mouth. This person turns out to be the Grim Reaper, floating with a hooded long black cloak, and is coming towards me as I'm trying with all my might to move and open my mouth to yell for help. This figure stops within feet of me, breathing very heavily, and a second later, I finally wake to the real world in a complete gasp and a short of breath with my heart racing. That Sunday morning was the start of a daily recurrence of nightmares that consisted of horrific things happening to my girls, stepping into violent warfare, and more I won't get into detail with. I found myself very scared to go to sleep, and even trying to keep myself awake for as long as I can so that I limit my chances of sleeping and stepping into yet another nightmare. However, even with 3 to 4 hours of sleep per night, the nightmares would persist. I shared this with Hannah during one of our MCs where we both actually had to step out during scripture to tend to our girls. She listened so intently and with sympathetic eyes that made me feel so seen and not crazy. I ended up sharing this with the ladies in my MC the next week, and they immediately laid hands on me and prayed over me. I hadn't realized all of this was connected from the chat I had with my friend about the gospel to sleeping and waking up to the spiritual world and the very real presence of Satan, who is constantly on the prowl and angered by the fact that we as Christians are spreading the word of Jesus. Kat made a note of the intentionality that Satan was trying to attack me in my most vulnerable and sacred space I used to hold to commune with God, and she reminded me of his sovereign power and authority over all places, including our sleep world. That night I went to sleep, not afraid or anxious, but at peace, and for the first time in over a week, fell into a deep sleep with no interruption or wake in panic. You can't imagine how happy I was to wake up refreshed. I nearly cried. It wasn't until much after all this happened that I discovered God had placed a word on Hannah's heart before our spring MC had started, and the word that God had for her was Psalm 4:8. "In peace I will both lie down and sleep, for you alone, O Lord, make me dwell in safety." I'm so thankful for that MC and how they quickly partnered with me in prayer and power and not hesitating to shoulder with me to battle the enemy. Much like an opposing team's coach being angered when their rival team player scores a touchdown or a goal, it deeply angers Satan when we are actively advancing God's kingdom by sharing the gospel. So church, let's suit up with our spiritual armor and go out with confidence that, as Romans 8:31 states, if God is for us, then who can be against us?